Hello, my name is Deborah Anderson, the Black Woman Animator, coming back to you with another video. And in this video, I have Steven R.V. Johnson. Welcome.
Hi.
Just give a quick intro of yourself.
My name is Steven. I'm a Disney animation animator, and yeah, my job is basically to make characters move and act.
Nice. So, first question.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you from and how was it growing up?
I'm from Bronx, New York, and growing up, it was cool. I liked it. I like growing up in the Bronx. I probably wouldn't never left if I didn't have to like move for work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was there until I was like 26,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got my first job in feature, so I had to like go to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And after that, I came to Disney, so I moved to LA. But growing up, it was great. I was pretty much like a homebody, so I was just like staying home
Mm-hmm.
and watching movies and cartoons and playing video games all the time.
Yeah.
That wasn't like wasn't like an outside kid, stoop kid,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was also I also had my friends there, and like we were just into the same type of stuff, so
Yeah.
it was all good.
What do you feel is like special about being from, New York City?
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things. I love New York. I compare like everywhere I go to New York, and like nothing compares.
Yeah.
I just love how easy it is to get everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I lived in a part of New York where it was like we had all our buses and stuff, but it wasn't too close to the train.
Mm-hmm.
You had to like take a bus to a train.
Yeah.
But after that, like everywhere is like easy to get. You just hop on the train and go where you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
Things are open all the time, so you don't have to like if you need something at a certain point in the day, you don't have to worry about is that closed now or
Right.
yeah. So that's great. There's always something happening in the city,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much everywhere nowadays. But yeah, it's super easy to just find something to do in New
Yeah.
York, and there's like tons of different types of people there. Um, I mean, it's like I guess like a lot of places, it's still segregated, so
Yeah.
you kind of know where to go for like different types of food and like all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there are different types of people in the greater New York. You just have to like know where to go. And I guess
Yeah.
everybody like meets in the city and like Soho and those types of places. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Nice. So,
those are the things I love about New York.
what are some of your best like childhood memories?
Specific to New York or just in
childhood. Yeah.
general? No, I mean, I guess growing up where I grew up, it was like um, typically in the Bronx, all the buildings are like pretty close together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like super compact and like people just on top of each other. But where I was, there was still like super tall buildings. There were like 30 floors, 26 floors.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really spaced out. So if you took
Mm-hmm.
my neighborhood and made it a city in New York, it'd be like one of the biggest cities of New York.
Mm-hmm.
There's just like the population is like pretty big. So
Yeah.
there's like a ton of greenery and stuff and like room to like just run around and explore. So going out during those times and like I don't know, for some reason snowstorms just popped into my head. Like when it would snow and it would snow bad,
Yeah.
they would they would pile all the snow into the parking lot of the strip mall over there.
Mm-hmm.
And there would just be like these huge mountains of snow, like 10, 20 feet tall. And then you could just climb up those and kind of just jump down. And then it would snow
Nice.
on top of that sometimes. So yeah, it was just like, I don't know. Those were fun times.
Yeah. So, like, what is your cultural makeup?
I am Jamaican, Chinese, and a bunch of other stuff. So my family's all mixed up, but both my parents are from Jamaica, and my
Mm-hmm.
mother is half Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, he's like mixed with white and I think Indian and different stuff. So, but yeah, it's just mainly Jamaican.
Yeah.
Chinese.
What
Those are
did
like
you have?
the cultural. Those have the biggest cultural impact out of
Yeah.
like everything.
Do you have any like favorite cultural like traditions or foods from growing up and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, Jamaican food is one of the best foods out there.
Yeah, my last ex was Jamaican. I should have took the
Oh yeah,
recipes. Like,
yeah, love Jamaican food. Yeah, you should
woo,
have stole the
yes,
recipes from it. Yeah. But yeah, like curry goat and oxtail and ackee and saltfish and all that. Yeah, that's like my favorite food to eat, and it's sad because out here, like, there are no real Caribbeans or not too
yeah,
many Caribbeans, so they don't have like a ton of like Jamaican places.
right.
Yeah, any of that. So I haven't had it in a long time. And then my mother moved out
Mm.
here during the pandemic, so she's been out here and she's been like cooking sometimes. So that's been
Woo,
good.
yes,
Yeah,
come through in the clutch, mom.
yeah,
Party
yeah.
at your
It
house.
was rough for a while, especially like in especially in Vancouver. Like there's like no Caribbean people. They had a one Jamaican restaurant I went to, and it was like okay.
Yeah, you would have
And
been
then
better off in Toronto.
yeah, I know. It's cold over there. Vancouver's not as cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Vancouver it was weird. They had this place called what was it? Pizza, like Jamaican Pizza Jerk or something like that. And I was like, I'm never going to that place. What is that?
Yeah, like that's what I feel about because I'm originally from Detroit, and was it Pizza Hut got this Detroit style pizza, and I'm like, y'all just be throwing Detroit on anything because that's what is that? What is this sauce on the top of the pizza? Like, what is this? So they just
What is
put
that
some words
supposed
together,
to? That's
Jamaican
just
jerk pizza.
yeah. So I don't do anything like that in Detroit.
It's
They just
square,
threw
but
it on there.
the sauce on the pizza. What is that's not?
Yeah.
No. That people be just slandering the city of Detroit. Like, I'm trying to be the good that comes out of Detroit. I'm like, we need some goodness. So,
Oh, that's terrible. They just want to they want to sound exotic.
right. What is this? So, what was your journey in like art and animation during childhood? Like, what kind of stuff did you do?
I did a little bit of everything. When I was really little, I drew a lot. Like in school, I would draw a bunch of pictures and I would sell them sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that was like the main thing when I was like before high school, I would just draw a lot. And then at one point, my cousin moved in with us and he knew a little bit of Photoshop. So he taught me some Photoshop. And then I just like kind of started doing tutorials, just little stuff here and there. It was never like, I don't think I ever took what I learned from Photoshop and then applied it to like something completely different that I wanted to do. It was kind of most of the time I was just like doing a tutorial and just trying to figure out how things worked in there. And that like bled into high school. And in high school, I kept drawing, but I was like drawing less. It was mostly the Photoshop stuff. And I had an interest in animation, so my mother got me and my friend. We did a class at Parsons.
Nice.
It was just like it was like a flash animation course, but they didn't really, I don't know, it wasn't super intuitive because you had to draw your picture and then scan it in, but then trace it with like the pen tool, and then I don't know, create elements and stuff. So I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, but this takes way too long because I tried to do something at home and it was just like, man, I'm like never gonna finish this. So I think if I had like a Wacom or something that I could have used back then, I think I would have been more inclined to use Flash.
Yeah.
But after that, I didn't really like do too much in it. I also like did some music. I rapped a little bit, and then I think that was about it. Those are like the main things artistically that I was into. And then when I got to college, I know I wanted to do animation in college because I had done that course, but it wasn't like 3D, which is what I really wanted to try out. So that's when I actually picked up 3D, was in college. And luckily, I mean, I I didn't have an art portfolio because I went to a American Studies high school, and didn't really do art. So I just had stuff that I was working on the side, and luckily the school just they just took a look at my portfolio and let me in.
Nice. So let's see. You went to Mercy College, did Animation Mentor, and then I Animate. What did you get from each place, and why did you feel like you had to keep getting additional schooling?
So for Mercy College, I think Mercy College, like the best advantage I had there was like you had to go in, and I was there with some friends. One of my best friends actually went there with me. So we were like in it together.
Yeah.
And we were starting from scratch. So we had like no idea what 3D animation entailed other than like what I read in books. But I never tried to use Maya or anything like that, or had any sort of formal art training. So I think getting like the foundation at a brick and mortar school like that was good.
Yeah.
It also it helped me learn what I liked and what I didn't like, and what I didn't like really want to pursue. There are a lot of disadvantages too, because like if you're just learning, it's fine. But if you kind of know what you want to do after a certain point, because after a certain point, I was like, yeah, I want to animate. I don't like need to know how to light or I like to model, but I just wanted to learn how to animate. And after a certain point, it was like, I'm still having to do every single thing, so I can't even focus on animating. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. But
just like, what did you get from each place, and like, why did you feel like you had to continue?
Yeah, so basically picking up from that, I graduated from Mercy, but I still couldn't get a job in animation. I mean, I applied to like internships and stuff here and there, but I knew that I wasn't good enough to get a job in animation. So a little bit before I graduated, I found Animation Mentor, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that like right after I graduate. I think the main reason why I graduated was to get the degree. Because I was like so close when I decided to do Animation Mentor. I was like, I might as well just finish and then get the degree, which came in handy later because it helped me to go to Canada, because it just gave me like more credibility.
Because when you get that visa, you gotta be. They ain't letting just anybody.
Yeah, you gotta be model citizen. You gotta have a degree and everything.
Yeah.
But so I decided to go to Animation Mentor, and I like Animation Mentor a lot. What they have going on there is really cool. They really the way they cultivate the community to be like really open and share and help each other out is great. And all the lessons are good too, like the way that they organize their lesson plans, and like the videos that they have are really high quality. But I just felt like they didn't grade. You had grades, but there was no like pass or fail, I guess.
Yeah.
So you can try really hard and get good grade and then go to the next class. So that was the experience that I had. I felt like the instructors were too nice, and maybe I could have done more and said, just tell me like how it is, or like how to get better. But I think that kind of them doing that, I feel like made me feel like I was better than I was.
Yeah.
And I was in a better spot than I was.
Kind of like the people who end up on the first 2 weeks of American Idol.
Yeah.
Like your family told you was good, but you are not.
Exactly. So I mean, like, because in animation, I think it's really easy. Maybe it's the same thing in modeling, but it's really easy to make something move and then think like that it's good, just because it's moving, because it's hard to make move.
Right.
And then like everybody you show that doesn't do it is just like, oh wow,
right?
It's like they never see anything like that before.
Of like, that's cool.
Yeah, because like most people never see behind the scenes type of animation, so I think just that in itself is cool. But then like at a certain point, I don't know what the trigger was, but I just still knew that I wasn't there yet. even though I thought that I was like better than I was. So then I saw what Animate was doing, and their stuff. It seemed like it was more of the style that I was going for anyway. Their stuff was like a little more, or a lot of it was a little bit more mature in terms of like the type of shots that people were doing and choosing to do. And it was just like a little more realistic in the motion, and there was like still caricature there, but it was like more like realistically caricatured, as opposed to like cartoony, you know, like yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try to go there, and then I just sent my reel to the owner, and then he was like, oh yeah, you can start, but you would have to come back a class. So I would send you back a class, and then you can like go through the rest of the program. So I was like, oh, if he's gonna like put me back a class, then like they're probably gonna be pretty honest about like, you know, how my work looks. So yeah, that's when I decided to go there. And it was also Animation Mentor was also like more expensive.
Yeah.
So that played a part in it too, because it's just like, you know, I'm paying all this money and then I feel like I'm not progressing the way I should.
Right.
So I think iAnimate at the time was like half the cost. And then on top of that, I was getting like better feedback from myself in the way I learn. But like going from Animation Mentor to iAnimate, there's like two different, I feel like in terms of presentation and Animation Mentor is a lot, it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot, they like really focus on the presentation and like building that community. And iAnimate is just like, you kind of just drop in your class and then that's it. They have the things there so you can do it, but it's not as well thought out as Animation Mentor. And it might just be because the price isn't there, so they couldn't, you know, invest that much into the infrastructure of it. So I went to iAnimate, and then I think what I got there was like brutal honesty. All the teachers there pretty much were just like, the way they do it is pass or fail. So it's either you do what you need to do to get to the next class or you don't. And one teacher in particular, Tal Schwarzman, I was in his class and then I was like doing something and I thought it was good. And then he gave me a note. And then I was like, okay. So I went back, did the note, came back to him. And he was like, he gave me the same note again. And then I left and came back. And then I was just like super down. He's like, yo, what's going on? So then I was like, oh yeah, like I'm trying to hit the note. Because the second time he gave me the note, he was like, I don't know why you're not doing this. And then gave me the note again. So I was like, yeah, I'm really trying to, like I spent time trying to do that note and I just can't see what you're seeing. And then it was like, at that point I noticed, or I like knew that I had to do like 10 times more than what I was doing. Because at the time I was still trying to do different things. Like I was still trying to like do rap, and then I started doing music videos, like shooting and editing music videos. So my head and my creativity was split and my focus was split. So at that point I like gave all that stuff up and I just like went 100% into animation. I figured like everything else would still be there. And it doesn't take me, like figuring that stuff out didn't take me as much time as animation is taking me to figure out. So after that, like that was like the light bulb moment that like the switch just went off. And then like after that, I just like went mad hard and just, I think that's when I like made the most progress from the time that moment happened till I got out of school, is when I made the most progress.
Yeah, I feel like that's why, like, I can animate, but it was just like, I felt like I always had to push it further, and I'm like, like I always have to do more. And then so I don't feel like I'm good at this. So let me modeling. And then when you were talking about animation mentor and them being too nice, that's kind of how I felt. Like I did Toastmasters, which is the public speaking club thing, and like it's a cool like community, but I felt the same thing. Like they're too nice when they're giving their feedback, because it's just like random people who come and meet, and then you have like these little piece of paper you could fill out about people's speech, and it just was like the culture was just like I'm actually trying to get better at public speaking, and you just telling me, oh, this was awesome, like, but what did I do bad though? Like, exactly, so I can do better the next time. So I understand.
Like you're not gonna hurt my feelings. Like I need to know.
Yeah. Oh, that you're not gonna hurt my feelings. That reminds me of college, because like I don't know. I feel like it was like I don't feel like people were racist, but because I was Black, I was like in my freshman class, it was 60 people in the film, video, and animation, and I was one of 2 Black people. And so I just felt like in some of my classes, they would like be giving all this feedback to the person before me and then the person after me. And then when I would get up there, they would be like really quiet, like my classmates. And I'm just like, how am I going to grow? If y'all don't talk to me, like I'm not going to cuss you out. And so I had to like really advocate for myself, which is like sucky that I had to figure out how to do that. And be like asking questions like, so how was this? And then sometimes luckily the professor might say something, but I'm just like, how y'all just not gonna say anything? Like, so
I think also a thing that I learned from Mercy was like how to give feedback without, because the whole thing about feedback is like it's a weird balance, because you don't just want to pick out things that you see are wrong, which is the normal inclination, just like, oh, this is wrong, like you want to give you want to compliment the work and tell them what they're doing right at the same time as telling them what they could improve on. So that was like one of the first things that they taught us when we got there. So I felt lucky because and also like I had boys there, and like all we do all day is just like tease each other and like cut ass on each other, so like we want to do that anyway. So that was like a big thing. But like the other people in class that we weren't like super close with, we all were trying to get better too, so that helped.
So were your parents supportive of your artistic interests?
The whole time, surprisingly, being Jamaican. they were like, the whole time they were supportive of anything artistic I did. My dad worked at there's a museum in New York called the Museum of the Moving Image. And it's basically like anything film related, animation, like in terms of history or how it's done is in that museum. And they have like a ton of cool exhibits. When I was younger, I used to go over there, and they had the video games all the time. So I would just like be in that little section playing like different video games from different eras and stuff. They also had like props from different movies. So they had the Mrs. Doubtfire costumes and different Robin Williams costumes and stuff.
Nice.
And it had a whole floor for animation, like different types of animation, like how it started. So it's like my dad he's not into art, but I don't even know if he considers what I do art, but he was always like, he was there, so he like knew stuff that was going on behind the scenes. So he'd like, and they had a bookstore, so he would get me books related to like drawing or animation. And I think my mom was like a little more, she's like into crafts and stuff. So she would always like encourage me to do art. And like I said earlier, she got that class for me, the animation class, when I was in high school. So yeah, I think luckily they supported me. And my dad, he like he's the type of person you would think would just be like into, because growing up he was like, you got to do good in school, and I was a terrible student. And then like, you got to go to school, go to college, and then get a job and blah, blah, blah. But then like as I got older, I just realized that he just wants me to have a plan and then execute the plan. It wasn't really about school. Like school is there, and getting good grades gets you more options to have like an easier way or easier plan or whatever. But after that didn't work out. He just like he wanted me to have like a real solid plan and just know I have a goal and a direction to going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the projects you've worked on, Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, like of course, the Angry Birds movie 2, Frozen 2, and Raya and the Last Dragon. Is there any more projects that you've worked on?
Features. I worked on Encanto that's coming out in like a month or a month.
Nice.
But features, that's it. I also worked on like commercials when I was in New York.
Yeah. So what did you do at Frame Store?
At Frame Store, I did Geico Gecko commercials. I did lactate commercials. I don't know if you know. There's like a allergy medicine called Zyzal. It's like a talking owl. I did that stuff too. And then like a bunch of random stuff that didn't have to do with any character work.
Yeah.
Bird's eye vegetables. I did some birds for that too. Yeah, it was cool. I like working there. It was like you hear commercials is pretty intense, but I think Frame Store itself kind of functions more like a feature studio where the big days are longer and you have longer to really like polish your animation and do a good job on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like my time there. It just wasn't feature, which is what I wanted to do ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the only reason I left.
So what would you say thus far, what is your biggest breakthrough in your career, or if you've had multiple breakthroughs?
Biggest breakthrough. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird because since I think I noticed the breakthroughs more when I was like before feature. Since I got into feature, I found it a lot more difficult to identify when I have breakthroughs or if I'm getting better. Sounds weird, but like because
I guess before you just had so much just further to go.
Yeah. So, and I'm really hard on myself because after that moment in I Animate, I just became like super hard on myself and like really critical of my work. So anytime I look at anything I do, all I see is the mistakes. It's not until like way after, like maybe years or months where I can look at something I did and then be like, oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
For like that time or whatever. I still see the mistakes, but it's like, it's gone. I mean, time passed at this point. So I'm not like too pressed about it, but yeah, I think the biggest problem I have now, which I think could be good to hear for other people, is like I'm at Disney, right? So there are so many other talented people at Disney, and like these are some of the best in the world at what they do.
Right.
And I just think I'm at the bottom of those people. So it's just like, because I mean, I'm looking at their work all the time, and I'm just like seeing like how good they are.
Yeah.
It's harder for me to like place myself in that group of people.
Right.
So now I'm even like more hypercritical about like the work I'm doing, and I kind of just, the way I navigate it is I just do me and then put it out there, and then I kind of just let them tell me. I mean, it's been working out. They like my work, so I'm doing something right. But yeah, I think I have like a skewed reality of how good or bad my work is nowadays. Even at Sony it was easier because they have like junior animators, and they have like different tiers of animators. So there it's like a little bit easier because like some people are just starting or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's just a mixed bag of people. But here it's like if you took the top people from there and just put them in a studio, then that's what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that'll change one day. Maybe not. Probably not. I heard like other animators that like Glenn Keane, like he still suffers from that type of thinking to this day. It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just something to get used to. And I mean, I think as long as it's not like hindering your work, then I guess it's fine.
I have a modeler friend.
Mm-hmm.
I have a modeler friend who, you know, went from one studio to like one of the big studios, and he's like, like I suck, and I'm like, you don't, but I mean, you do. I mean, like you are at a studio that's like really good modelers, so it's like, yeah, I feel like a bunch of people in the animation industry are like going through that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all relative, I guess.
Yeah.
I think if I was somewhere else, I feel more like more comfortable about my work. I mean, it's not like nobody's like nobody's mean about it or anything, like telling me I suck. Actually, everyone's really nice and they tell my work is great, but I know that I personally have a lot of work to do to get better, to be able to see, because there's some times in my work, I don't know if you get this too with modeling, but when an animation plays, like for a split second, sometimes you see it and you're like, oh, like for me, I fool myself a little bit sometimes. It's like a split second. It never lasts that long. But I want to have that moment, because I get that moment when I see other people's work. But so I want to have that moment for like longer spats of time in my own work. But yeah, I don't know. Do you get that in modeling?
I mean, I'm realistic about my skill set, so I'm not like out here like, like, nah, I got somewhere to go. I got some levels to go up. But for me, it's just a matter of, since I'm a natural perfectionist, like it was just a matter of getting out of my head and putting stuff out there, because if I don't put it out there, it's never like, how can I be an artist if I'm never creating art or like publishing art or something like that? So what was important for my personal journey was like, okay, it's not going to look perfect. You're not going to think it looks awesome. Just put it out there. And then, you know, other people think it looks awesome. But which is like comforting that sometimes you don't have to overdo things for it to be good.
As long as it connects with people.
I do want to get better though. So it's like that dichotomy.
I think a lot of people get stuck in that mode, because I think I'm the same way. Like I can work on something like endlessly and like never show anybody, and then it will just never see the light of day. So I think it's like really important for people to know that you need to finish things. You need to put it out there for feedback. Let's get it seen.
And like finished doesn't mean done, because like an artist is like never done. You just gotta put it out there at some point.
And it's better to do like 10 quick projects than it is to you know, just work on one long thing, because you're learning. If you're doing the 10 projects, you're learning like different things along the way in each project, and just finishing things is really important. You know, finishing. But because I don't know who said it, but they were like, if I have a student or a classroom of students, I'm going to make them work on 10 vases, like model 10 vases instead of modeling one for the same amount of time. Because you're just like learning more rapidly that way. And it's true.
And like in learning ZBrush, you know, people have said like you can get lost in adding more and more detail, and then sometimes you can overdo it. So, which I have done already, and so I'm like, oh, let me like clean all this up and like make it more smooth, because I'm like using all these brushes and alphas, and it's like let me get rid of all that now. So you animated several shots in Into the Spider-Verse. So like how did you get the position at Sony, and then how did you get that shot?
So the way I got into Sony was I did a test shot. I did a test shot and then just put it out online, and then it got received well. So after that, a supervisor from Sony wanted to get me on Hotel T. Alan Hawkins. So he wanted to get me on Hotel T3, I think. And then I guess he shared my reel or that shot with the other supervisors. And then the other two were working on Spider-Verse and Smallfoot. They also wanted to interview me to get on their shows. So I had like 3 interviews back to back. But luckily, like a lot of times in animation, like if you get an interview, it's pretty chill after that point. So they were just like pretty much telling me about the project. So I was lucky enough to have the choice kind of for which show I wanted to be on.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm going to choose Spider-Verse.
Yes. No brainer.
The soup on that show, Josh Beveridge, he's like a really passionate dude, and he just like completely sold it. I was like leaning towards that anyway, but he was just selling that they were just trying to do something different, and really take care of the characters in the show. And it was going to be something completely different than what we've seen Sony do up until that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, at that point, it was just like a no-brainer. I just had to do that one.
So like being new to the studio, like how did you get the opener?
Yeah. Well, it was a ramp up because I did that shot. That was like one of my last shots. I think it was my second to last or my last shot. But it was a ramp up because I got on the show, and then it takes a little bit to get used to the style and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was my first time like at a big studio, first time living in a new country, in a new city.
Yeah.
So it was just like a lot of stuff to get used to, but it was. I got used to like the style, and then after that, I was starting to get used to the style, and then after that, I just kind of like chose a character that I identified with most, which was Miles. And then once I got a Miles shot, I just like tried to inject myself into Miles.
Yeah.
Because when we started the show, they gave us like a description of Miles and just like his mannerisms and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's like, I act like that, so I'm just gonna, but I thought that had been taken, so I wasn't gunning for Miles, saying like, oh, I'm gonna be Miles. I really, because I love Aaron, his uncle. I love that character, so I just wanted to like give him like the most New York swag ever. So I was like hoping to get a lot of his shots, but I ended up getting some, but like not enough to like get that in there. But I think they did a good job of making him like a smooth guy.
Yeah.
So after I did like a couple Miles shots, then the soup and the directors were liking what I was doing. So eventually, and just slowly throughout the show, I became like one of the guys that they went to for Miles reference. So like whenever they needed like, if anybody needed help with Miles or anything like that, I was one of the people that they came to. And then we did this one sequence that got cut. I don't know if you saw like any of the cut shots on the special features, but it's like when they're on. Yeah, when they're on, I think it's there, but it's when they're on the billboard and it's Peter and Miles and they're having a conversation. It's like a real deep conversation. And then me and my lead, we did like a back and forth, the reference for that section. So it was like a whole entire, it was like maybe a third of a sequence that we just did the reference for. And then since it was like pretty late in production, they just wanted to like, get it done as fast as possible and figure out what was going on. So usually people can do their own reference, but that was like a special case.
Yeah.
So I think like that led up to them trusting me enough to handle that opening shot.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful that they did that, because that's like, I think that's the best shot that I've done. Just like the most important. I had a lot of fun on it. It was
That's what brought people into the movie. Like, oh, I do that too when I was downloading words.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was super grateful to get that opportunity to do that, and that they trusted me. It's kind of crazy because it was my first feature, so there's no reason that they should have kind of. I mean, I proved myself, but
Yeah,
you wouldn't think going into it that like this is what's gonna happen. Like if you told me that,
right.
I'd be like, I don't believe that.
Right.
But yeah, that's how it happened.
So listed a few future shots. The opening shot, you did the arguing in the car with his dad, Peter, while he was telling Miles where to get the goober. Miles on the way to the school when he trips and falls in front of his dad's police car, and Aaron when he's walking over to Miles with the popcorn.
Yeah.
So, what comments have you gotten from people about the scene?
From my dad, the shot came out before the movie came out. So I put it on Twitter. Like I took my chunk out of it and then put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that like went viral and it was crazy. So I got like a ton of like great feedback from that. It's basically what you were saying, like, oh yeah, I've done that in my room. And I just love that, like, I was getting like a ton of like Black people commenting on it.
Yeah.
And like, just like, it's like, it's not every day that you see a Black person in animation, but also a Black person that you can relate to.
Yeah.
In that way, because Miles, it's not like they're super cartoony, like the characters are super cartoony, even though they have cartoony moments.
Yeah.
Their personalities aren't like cartoony; they're all like grounded in reality. So that was like amazing to see and to get people like commenting and like liking the shot like that.
Yeah.
And at some point, Sway Lee retweeted it. So it's like it really got into the Black community and Black Twitter. I was like, yeah, I made it.
You're right.
And when my dad, he saw it, and I hadn't shown it to him or like my family because I was like, I didn't want them to see the shot before it like got out in theaters.
Yeah.
So then he said he told me he saw it, and he asked what shot I did, and I told him I did that shot. And he was like, oh, when I saw it, like I thought it looked like you. Like, oh.
Nice.
That's cool. Even though as an animator, you're kind of like, oh man, I wanted to be that character. But yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, but I feel like that's because like with 2D animation, when you have all those greats like Milk Call and Frank and Ollie and all that stuff, they have these certain styles. And people do compilation videos on YouTube of like, oh yeah, this is what they did. But it's like if your dad can see you, then that's like your stamp on the character, even if it's still like the character, but it's like a piece of you too.
Yeah. Another thing special about that shot is since we had this tool where we could draw like lines wherever we wanted on the screen, and it just made like it made a mesh inside of Maya so that it can go down the pipeline. So because we had that capability, we could just like write things in different places on the screen. And then I was able to put my daughter's name in Miles' notebook in the background.
Nice.
So that's just like, if it's going past, like if the camera's moving going past, like you don't see it, but if you pause on it and you kind of just like zoom in a little bit, you can see it. So I'm glad that didn't get blurred out. Yeah.
I hope you have that like framed in her room or something.
I should, yeah. See what I did for you.
So what was it like for the first time seeing your name in the credits? Like, how did it feel?
It was it's funny, it wasn't like what I thought it would be. Because what I always imagined was that I would be like in New York in a theater like full with like my family and my friends who had like been there when I was like on the journey trying to get this done. And that wasn't the case because we had the premiere in Vancouver, so I went to, not a premiere, they just had like a screening for us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I went to that, and my girlfriend and daughter had to stay home because my daughter was like under 1 year old or just
Mm-hmm.
about one, so she
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be able to make it through a movie.
Yeah.
So I just ended up going by myself, and I was there with, like, you know, with my coworkers and friends there, but it just wasn't the same, you
Yeah.
know. Like that's the type of moment that you just want to see with, like, you know, your family pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I wish I flew back to New York to
Mm-hmm.
watch it with everybody, but I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah. So, like, how was it living in Vancouver? Because, you know, like, a lot of Americans think like Canada is like North US. So, like,
Yeah.
what are some like differences in living in Canada?
Let's see, differences.
Or is it just like living in America?
It kind of is. It's just like an American city, kind of. The thing that was different was like the healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
because they have universal healthcare. So um, I was, it was like weird figuring that out. And then they don't do like yearly physicals. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
just you go to the doctor when you need to go to the doctor, and they have a shortage of doctors, so you can't get an appointment to get like a family physician. So like we had to go to the clinics all the time.
Yeah.
Because my daughter was she was like 3 months old when we first moved over there. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we're new parents, so living alone in a new country,
Yeah.
so we're just like don't know what's going on. So like we would go to the doctor like for anything.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was rough. Other than that, it was like living in the U.S. I think,
Yeah.
except like delivery kind of sucked.
Uh,
Amazon isn't as accessible. Like you
mm,
have stuff, but like it's not as easy. Just because I mean, here I get stuff delivered like all day, every day, but
mm-hmm.
over there, yeah, just not as much was available.
Yeah.
And then you can't, if you order something from the States, you get charged like an import tax. Like that doesn't
Oh,
happen
yeah.
if you order from Canada here, but over there, like you get like tax on everything. It sucked.
Yeah.
um, Other than that, it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest culture shock for me was like there aren't many black people over there. It's like very
Mm-hmm.
little. Uh, so that was like the hardest thing to get used to.
Yeah, because
Um,
you just moved from New York City, right?
yeah.
So
So
that's like
yeah, it's like
night and day.
over there, like over here, you get on the train, you know, every type of person everywhere. But like I'm coming from the Bronx, so like black, Hispanic, Asian people, just like are basically the train until you get downtown.
Yeah.
And then here it's like a majority Asian and white. So um, yeah, that's all I saw
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. Um, so yeah, that's something I missed. Like when I came back to the US, I was like, yeah,
Black
finally,
people.
yeah. And we had like maybe two or three, maybe 5 or 6 black animators.
Hmm.
So, but the thing is, like, I would see black people at work, like some black people at work, and then go outside and just didn't see anything. So I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I liked it over there, but like that was like a big thing. And
Hmm.
then like to have my daughter, it would be weird to have my daughter grow up and then not see any other black people, you know?
Yeah.
So that was like a big thing. Because I enjoyed my time over there and I like the city, but that's just like a big thing that I'm not willing to do because of her.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um. So, you know, being black in a predominantly like white industry has, I guess the way it's been a benefit, it was that you got to do like a lot of reference for like miles. But
Yeah.
has it been like a ism or like a anything for you, or it just was like the environment of not having black people?
No, there was a weird moment. Yeah, mostly it was fine, but there was like just one weird moment where I had to kind of like check a guy. But
Yeah.
other than that, it was fine. I didn't like I didn't feel any sort of way. There was one. So in the first building I lived in, first building I lived in was fine. Like everyone was friendly, but also I'm coming from New York, so like I don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Just like neighbors. Like I don't talk to neighbors or anything like that.
Right.
Or so there was like a neighbor that was like a little too friendly. I was like, yo, what's her deal? I think at the end of it, she was like trying to sell us something or trying to get into like one of those pyramid scheme type of things.
Oh yeah.
But it's not confirmed. Allegedly, that was happening. But then we moved to a different building, and then like one day I was going in, and then this woman was like, she opened the door before me, so I was like walking in with her, and then I was like heading in. She's like, "Oh, do you live here? Do you have a key?" And I was like, "Oh, come on."
I've seen those videos online.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just said yes, and then walked in. But like that was like one of the first times that I've experienced something like that.
Yeah.
So it was strange. So after that, I was like kind of on edge in that particular building. But other than that, it was like I didn't really have any like run-ins or anything weird happen.
Yeah. I feel like that's the interesting thing about, when you think about like different conversations in the Black community of like, oh, when you grow up in the hood, you're like really Black. But like when you grow up around other people who don't look like you definitely get a different Black experience.
Yeah.
That is like a callback to the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Like when you live in a very multicultural area, you don't experience that. Like, I mean, you can, but like it's like different.
Yeah, it's different when there are other people like you around.
Yeah.
Than if you're just like the one plopped in the middle.
Yeah.
You just kind of feel isolated.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because also like in my first job at Frame Store, I also had a culture shock there. But it wasn't anything crazy. I was still in New York. It was just I don't know. I felt like people at work and I weren't into the same things.
Yeah.
So I found it hard to connect with them at first, but then after that, you find different things that like, you can connect with. And good thing about like working is it's like an artistic field, so people are passionate about what they're working on.
Yeah.
So you can always fall back on just like animation.
Right.
That's always like a conversation starter in animation. So and you kind of pretty sure that everyone else is into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, if ever I feel it hard to connect with people, I just kind of lean back on that, and that gets the ball rolling, and you can like find other things that you each enjoy.
So what is a story that you possibly would like never get to talk about because nobody would ever ask you about it, whether it's like a cool story or a unique story, like whether it's in animation or just in real life? Like what's a cool story?
That's a tough question. Cool story.
Like, for example, like not a lot of people know that I lived in South Korea, so I could easily like take any story from South Korea because nobody would ever ask me that. Because like, what Black person goes to live in South Korea?
Do you speak Korean?
A little bit, yeah. I have a better accent than I have command of the language.
Okay.
Like I could sound like they were calling me Hanguk Saram by the time I left, which means Korean person, but I didn't know a lot. I just could pronounce it really, really well.
Okay. That's cool. How long were you out there?
2 years.
2 years. Wow.
Man,
I don't have a cool story like that. Let's see.
No, like random celebrity that you got to meet when you were like a child. Like,
oh yeah. I mean, it's kind of a cool story. So when I was like 21 or 22 or something,
mhm,
I was working at Apple, and Apple
mhm.
paid pretty well for retail. Um, so at one point I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a grill. so, so I went to a jeweler, and then I was like, I didn't want like a complete grill. I just wanted like the two bottom teeth.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I went to a jeweler and got it. Um, and then when I went back to pick it up, ASAP Ferg was in there.
Nice.
So then me and him like kind of had a mini conversation about it.
Mhm,
And then it's funny, after that, when I was working on videos again, when I was working on videos, I met him again.
mhm.
And then he remembered me from that time we were at the jewelry store. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, nice to be remembered.
Yeah. And he turns out he's like the nephew of a good friend of mine. So
Oh wow.
just a weird connection there.
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
So, what do you love like generally about animation?
I love being able to. I mean, I'm not the person making it, but just like making the model, but make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you get the character, and it's just like in the T pose, and then it's
Hmm.
as the animator, it's your job to make the character emote and feel alive,
Right.
and to like fool other people into thinking that this character is like a living, breathing, thinking character.
Yeah.
So that's what I really enjoy. And also really enjoy that moment I was telling you about earlier, just like trying to fool myself for like a split second.
Hmm.
Because it's like a, I don't know. I don't know if people like really understand what I'm saying, but it's like a cool magic
Fool
trick.
yourself into thinking you're good
Yeah. Yeah.
by your own standards.
Yeah. But not like if it's like it's what I would imagine Geppetto would have felt like when he saw
Mhm.
Pinocchio was alive. It's like the
Yeah.
same kind of feeling, but I just get it in fleeting half second
Yeah.
moments
Like
sometimes.
that amazement.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's like kind of like taking like being able to like walking is like taking it for granted because it's like falling forward, but you never
yeah,
think about your ability to like fall forward efficiently.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And like as you have a daughter who like learned to walk at some point, and so it's like really hard at the
yeah. It
beginning,
is. Yeah,
but you just never think about it. After you learn how to walk, you're like, yeah, I know how to walk. You don't really think about it, but it's like really amazing. Like the human body and a lot of things like are just really amazing, but you don't really think about it. So
yeah,
it's like that hone in of like, wow, this is like really amazing.
yeah. And it's like, I mean, as an animator, there are so many different things that you have to think about. It's not only like the pose of the character and like how limbs are moving and stuff, but you also have to
Right.
think about like each frame, where a body part is on each frame,
Yeah.
um, and like how that relates to the other frames around it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, you can nerd out about it, but it's like I don't know. It's because it's so hard to do. So like
Yeah.
when you actually get it done, like it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean
Um,
now I start shots and then like I get to a certain stage and I'm just like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I get past it. I'm like, okay, like it's starting to look like something, and then kind of just like pick away at it.
so what do you feel like what is the key to like some good lip sync where you're not overdoing it but you're still like getting the essence of what the person is or the character or the animal is saying?
Yeah, um, I think I think the real key is, um, I mean, I think I have to work on lip sync, but like
Mhm.
basic, just to like get it functioning. Um, you would think that if you're like talking, you would open your jaw on every syllable, like just like um, if intuitively you would think that.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times when you're talking, you kind of have your jaw open through some words.
Yeah.
So if you just like take out some jaw movement and have the person kind of connect words in that way,
Yeah.
That helps it a lot. Because then if you don't do that, then the person's just gonna like look real chattery, just like
Yeah.
you know. It's easy to make a character look like that.
Yeah.
And also you don't need to have the shape for every sound.
Yeah.
If there's like a lot of syllables happening in a certain amount of time, or a lot of sounds, you could just like kind of take something out, and if it looks
Mm-hmm.
right and it plays right, then it works. And that's
Yeah.
it.
So what have you learned throughout your like life and career that will be beneficial advice to others?
I think it's really important. It's really important to get work done, and to just. It's important to get a project done and then move on to the next project. Like learn from it and then move on to the next project. If you find yourself like getting stuck on something and you're just like not finishing it, then you probably need to have like work on something smaller scale. I think a trap that a lot of people fall into a lot of the time is just, I mean, I do this all the time. You just like, I'm gonna do a test shot. I'm gonna do it 5 seconds, and you're like, oh, but it would be cool if this happened too. And then it's just like you're tacking on time.
Yeah, moving the goalposts.
Yeah, exactly. And then at that point, it won't get done. And yeah. Also, I think as you're getting better, you're gonna come to points where you feel like you plateaued and you're not getting better. But your eye is getting better at seeing mistakes. So there's this chart. I could share it with you if I find it, but it's basically saying you see a lot of progress and then you flatline. Yeah. But as you flatline, your eye is getting better. So when your eye flatlines, then you progress again, and then those two lines just keep like leveling up.
Okay.
So it's just good to keep that in mind and keep the perspective that if you like physically aren't getting better, you looking at animation or like whatever you're doing, and if you can continue to see mistakes in your work at a certain point, you're gonna like get better, and your ability is gonna catch up to what your eye can see.
Yeah. Nice. So you're at the like beginning of your career in the animation industry. Have you decided what your purpose is in regard to like Blackness or like Black professionals in animation?
Yeah, I think,
or are you still figuring it out?
What I want to do is like talk to more like young people, like younger, like 5th grade or 4th grade, like younger kids, to like let them know that this is a career choice that you have. Because I mean, I think the problem a lot of the times is like you always think that, or like you don't even know the job exists. Yeah. So you can't like really pursue it in any real meaningful way if you don't know that it was a job. Especially like in animation, like, you know, they're animators. And then like you were saying earlier, like you can't, like, no, the layman doesn't know what a modeler is. You have to like explain them the different jobs. Yeah. So if we can educate like Black children that this is a job that they can do, and art is something that isn't just like, you're not going to be a struggling artist.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell
that's parents. A possibility. Yeah.
I mean, depending on how you do it, but
yeah. But there are jobs in art where you're not going to be struggling, especially like nowadays when there's like so much need for content, and all these companies and streaming services, like they just want stuff to fill up their libraries. And it's like video games, and I think like with Facebook and their metaverse announcement, there's just going to be more and more need for artists to build to create stuff for these like companies, and yeah, I think the kids and the parents need to know that it's not going to be like you're struggling
Yeah.
for the rest of your life trying to figure out like and trying to like blow up or something.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on getting more content with Black characters in TVs and movies?
My thoughts are it needs to happen. uh, I mean, from my side, I see that I think the transition is happening. It's
Hmm.
just, I think from when Spider-Verse came out, you might have thought that it would have been a faster process.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it is happening. And once the ball starts rolling, uh, it'll just like, once it has that momentum, it'll keep going. I just think
Hmm.
with bigger, bigger studios, it's, especially like with feature stuff, when they plan stuff so far out,
Yeah.
it's harder to get the ball rolling for that.
Yeah. Um, what do you hope for the future of like animation as far as innovation, storylines, characters? Because I feel like for me personally, Into the Spider Verse, like when you think about 2D, Klaus was like very innovative for 2D, and
Hmm.
then 3D it was Into the Spider Verse because it was like writing, technique,
Yeah,
animations, like it just was like awesome. I'm like,
yeah,
everything is being satisfied with
yeah.
it. So, what do you hope for the future?
um, I hope to see more stuff like Spider-Verse in terms of like pushing everything at once.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think like story-wise, I'd like to see more stuff geared towards like young adults and adults in
Yeah.
the feature space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I think, adults already have their like animated sitcoms and stuff.
Yeah.
There could be more, um, in terms of TV shows, there could be more like serious toned
Yeah.
animated series. But I think feature like really needs it,
Mm-hmm.
and there needs to be like a paradigm shift in how like people in the United States or in like Western culture in particular think about animation, how it's just for kids.
Yeah.
Um, I think if they took Spider Verse and just like amped it up a little bit, like it would
Mm-hmm.
get me there,
Mm-hmm.
or it would like help get people there.
Yeah.
Um, but I think like sometimes Pixar does a good job of that, especially with oh man, I forgot his name. He did Soul. Um,
Oh yeah. Um, Pete Doctor and Kent
yeah,
Power.
Pete Doctor. Yeah, yeah. Like that, his stuff is like pretty mature
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just like and sophisticated. Like you wouldn't
Yeah.
like it's a kids movie, but also not really because it's like a lot of stuff would just go over their heads.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, stuff like that. I want to see more of.
Um, what do you hope Black animators do in this current landscape that maybe you wish you would have done or had access to at a younger age? Like, because I feel like people feel like they have to wait till college or wait till like, what do you hope young Black animators are doing that you wish you could have done or would have done?
I think I think nowadays the industry is so accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I wish. I mean, when I was growing up, like we didn't have Twitter or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
um, if I was young now or younger now and had Twitter, I would encourage other uh, up and coming animators to reach out to professionals
Mm-hmm.
and just get like thoughts on your work. I have a friend who he's like completely self-taught and he like self-taught animator and then got into a Pixar internship and he works in feature now. He's been working in it the whole time. Never went to school for animation.
Nice.
Um, and it's just like just be like him. But he
Yeah.
reached out. He reached out to professional animators, got feedback on his work, was like
Mm-hmm.
really proactive about it. And there's so much free content online that you can
Mm-hmm.
find. I think it's a little bit harder for animation because some of the concepts are so They're sort of like difficult to grasp or explain. But I mean, since you can ask like these professionals to like look at your shots, and I'm sure if you don't understand something, they'll like break it down a little bit further for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And like, because also connections are really important. So if you're like reaching out to these people and they see that you're taking their feedback seriously, that's a big thing too. Like if someone tells you, like they give you some feedback and then you don't do it, they're like, oh yeah, I'm just like not gonna give you any feedback.
Right.
So it's important to get the feedback, do it, and then follow up with that person and show them that you did the feedback.
Yeah.
Because then they'll see that and they're like, oh, this kid works hard. And then they'll want to advocate for you when the time comes to like do an internship or for an opening at their studio.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta connect with a modeler at a studio, and he gave me some feedback, and it was a while ago. But the next time I talk to him, I'm like, here's what I did that you told me to do. I will not talk to him before that. Because I know how it feels like with having my platform and people reaching out to me, and then you like circle back and they're like, yeah, I didn't do what you did, what you told me to do. I'm like, but why did you ask if you wasn't gonna do it? Like, so
and then I mean I feel like a lot of people, they don't do it and then they still go back into the same person.
Like I had to tell this guy, like, if somebody tells you to do something, like, not that it's gospel, but don't tell them that you didn't do it. Like, because I gave somebody a suggestion, because people, like, my journey to like working in Korea, like I taught English first, and then I work at an animation company, which is like, that's not even like an ideal pipeline. Like, it just, I lucked up and worked at an animation company in Korea. And so people kind of take inspiration from my story because it's like online or whatever. And so somebody was trying to get to teach English, and I'm like, go to this recruiting agency. And then when I circle back, he's like, yeah, I tried, but I was like, did you use the recruiting agency I told you? He's like, no. I'm like, nope. I told you because like South Korea can be racist, and this recruiting agency gets Black people jobs. Like, so that's why you're probably not successful, because you didn't listen to what I said. I specifically told you that agency because of this. So
hopefully they learn. Listen to us, kids.
Yes, listen. Last question. Okay, you still got some life to live, but if someone was producing a documentary about you, what things would you want them to highlight about your life outside of work in animation?
Wow. I like them to highlight my family life. And just with my girlfriend, who's been like super supportive like throughout this whole thing. Honestly, she's the reason that we moved to Vancouver, because I was like, oh yeah, we just had a baby, like it's just like crazy to try to move right now. And she's like, no, we're moving. And then I was like, all right, cool. And then
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. And then I applied to Disney, and then I got it. And it was like a short 3-month contract. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if this is gonna be worth it. And then she's like, no, you're going. Because I was like, what am I gonna do, go by myself and then like have you guys move again,
right?
Like in 2 years, and like for a 3-month contract, and then what? Like what happens then?
Yeah.
And then she's like, nah, you got to do it. I'm like, okay. So then we like packed up and then moved again. So like she's been like super great about everything. Nice. So she would definitely be a highlight. And then I don't know, maybe just like the journey.
Yeah.
Because like I told you before, like I was like pretty distracted up until a certain point.
Yeah.
So I was like doing a lot of things, like the videos.
Yeah.
So that was like an
I can see that being the first act of your movie. You're like, da, 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 and then going into the second act is like, you gotta get focused.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, it was rap videos too, so rap videos are always interesting. Yeah, good time.
Yeah, I be trying to tell guys, like, y'all be trying to get prepared beforehand. If you get a woman, then you go from 0 to hero like much quicker. Like, it took you 10 years to get here, but if you had a woman, it take you 3. Like, the power of women is like real out here.
Yeah, she's always been like the person that's, because I'm more like, why is this not gonna work?
Mm-hmm.
Like poking holes in things. I guess you can tell from how I look at my animation, just poking holes in things. And then she's always just like, why not?
Right.
Just figure out how. Like, do you want to do it? If you do, then figure out the way to do it instead of like why you can't.
Right.
So it's like a good balance there.
Yeah. Nice. Shout out to her.
Yeah.
So, can you tell people where they can like see your work or follow you on social media?
Yeah, social media, on Twitter. I mean, on everything, I'm SRV Johnson. I don't post much. I have my stuff on Vimeo too, SRV Johnson. I have to upload an updated reel pretty soon, because I don't have a reel after Spider-Verse, so I should like get on that.
That's what like all like animators be saying, like, I don't have a reel, but they be getting jobs though. That's why they don't have a reel.
Yeah, exactly. Because once you're in here, and then you have like, because the industry is really small, so like you're gonna know people who know people, or you're just gonna know a person at every studio at a certain point. So yeah, that's why connections are so important.
Yeah, networking and being personable.
Yeah, exactly. Being easy to work with.
And
good at your job.
Yes, that's key too. So thank you for coming on my platform.
Anytime.
Thank you for allowing me to interview you. And to everyone out there, I want you to like So I Know It's Real, comment and tell me how you feel, subscribe to Soda Deal, and sign up for post notifications to show your zeal. Now, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.